Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Hello, friends. It's Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe coming to you on March 2nd. It's Thursday night. It's about 9:15, and the Dallas Mavericks just played the early game on TNT. Shout out to that. 6:30 start time, and the Dallas Mavericks gave us a show for the ages. That's the kind of game that we'll be referencing, I think, for a long time. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing pretty good. These windshield wiper Mavericks games might be bad for the soul in terms of us like trying to get a read on this team, but in terms of just like neutral entertainment value, I don't think you can beat some of these games that the Mavericks have been playing lately, even in the losses. So kind of reminded me of the 2003 Mavs a little bit. So this was another fun one. At least they won this time, so it wasn't like, actual fun.
Right. And just, if you didn't watch this game, because honestly, weird storm tonight here in North Texas blew out a lot of people's power. Also, I mean, Mavericks they've been 1-5 in these last 6. It's not been terribly fun. Some really heartbreaking losses. So if you tuned out tonight, I really wouldn't have blamed you. And then what happened was the Dallas Mavericks, what they did here, and this is really unique. What they did was they ran the make shots offense. And Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic combined for 82 points on, 18 of 44 from the floor. And they had 18 assists and 8 rebounds between the two of them. It was supercharged, and it was fun. It was real fun.
The 76ers shot 58% from the floor, 44% from 3. They made 24 free throws, and they lost by 7.
Which is pretty remarkable.
The Mavericks made 25 of 48 from 3. Oh my God. Remember we talked about like it's really hard to lose a game when you make a lot of threes. I think that was the Lakers game.
Yep.
Well, they ended up making even more. It's just 25 of 48. That's got to be there's got to be that's got to be touching some sort of historical significance there. I can't remember the last time I've seen a team shoot that many shooting 48 threes and making 52% of them is just, it's outrageous. That's a cheat code. You're never going to lose a game. Even when you play you still play the worst defense ever. Like you're still going to win.
I'm looking through the guys who shot threes. 2 players on the Mavericks. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Mavericks shot threes. Okay. 2 of those 8 shot under 50%. If I'm reading this right. Yeah, no, I am. This is nuts. So it's like Irving, Doncic, and Bullock were responsible for 18 of the 25 makes just between those 3. Like that. Like when Luka's hitting threes, it's over. And that's been the case for a long, long time. what we're not telling, and it was a tightly contested game up until halftime. The Mavericks looked good. The Sixers looked good. And then in the third quarter, the Mavericks just ran away with it. I mean, it was a 12-point game within 2 minutes, and then it was a 25-point game, which you didn't know, and that made me laugh. It's like you look away, and the game was just out of control. And then all of a sudden, the offense stalled just enough for the Mavericks to let the Sixers crawl all the way back into it. And for as much as we rail and have railed and will rail in the future on head coach Jason Kidd, Doc Rivers committed kind of a sin tonight, in that he left his bench in a minute longer than he should have. The Sixers whittled it all the way down to 4 points from up 25, and they did this in a quarter, guys. Like, that's how bad this Dallas defense is.
They did it in like a minute, it felt like. It was the fastest 17-0 run of all time.
Kid was calling timeouts. Like, they were trying stuff. It just wasn't working because the Sixers are a talented and huge team.
Yeah, for once, we don't have any Kid criticisms here, at least.
No, not in that regard at all.
Yeah.
This was they don't have the horses to stop the Sixers, and they got out from under it just long enough. And so 4-point game, Luka's back in and Kyrie is in as well. And Luka hits, did Luka hit 2 threes?
Kyrie and Luka hit back-to-back threes to make it. It was. It went from 5 to 11 in like,
and then the game
30
was,
seconds.
The game was over.
Right. Yeah. Sixers never got it closer to like 7 or 8 after.
Though the Sixers did whittle it all the way down again, because poor Josh Green, who we've been really advocating for, had like 3 brain farts in a row.
This was the kind of game from him that's like, that sucked, but you take it. It's the
right.
good.
He had 4 turnovers. Josh Green.
It was not.
He never has turnovers. That's wild.
Yeah, not good. But he also, he was on the floor for a lot of good moments too, and it's just like
he started the game, and Kid gave
wow, what a difference it makes, right?
Kid gave Grant Afseth of DallasBasketball.com he basically like Grant asked the simple question, and credit to Grant for asking it, because apparently people don't do this to Kid or whatever. So he asked like why Josh Green hasn't started, and the answer Kid gave was like a 45-second soliloquy that did not address the question whatsoever. It was like watching a presidential debate where someone just takes the prompt and starts talking about something else. And Green started, and I think Green affects the energy.
Yeah.
It's like a palpable thing. I doubt you can really see it in the stats.
Sometimes it's negative energy. Like sometimes it's too chaotic, but you take it, right? Like
they need just something that energy, right? Because Luka always comes out with a methodical,
yes,
I want to see what's happening. And that, like, some games that just doesn't fly. I mean, the announcers, Reggie Miller, who was just awful as always, spent a lot of the first half talking about how the Mavericks needed to run faster, and talked about how Luka's not in good enough shape, as Luka was carving up the Sixers. Like, it was, and I get his point. I tend to agree with it if we're honest. But it was just very funny. And then in the second half, he pivoted to talking about how the playoffs are slow, so maybe the Mavericks can't keep doing this. And it's like, well, pick one, weirdo. But whatever.
But he had a steal. They forced some turnovers in the first quarter. And again, they ended the first quarter up 38-37. So it's not like he made a huge impact like defensively, but it was still better. Like, it's still better than the Justin Holiday. He was at least doing stuff. Like, you could feel his impact on the game in a way that, like, these other guys that they want to try out for that 5th starter spot just can't. And it's just because he's one of the only remaining like dynamite athlete. Like, he's the best athlete on the team, and you just putting him next. After that Indiana game, I think the big thing for me was it's not that hard. Play your best players as much as possible together. Like, mixing up Green and the Holiday, and like, I think Green, Luka, and Max only played 5 minutes in that Pacers game together, and it's like, what are we doing?
Stop making the game difficult.
Because we know the roster's already shorthanded. Now you're making it extra. Like, it's like you're trying to manage the roster with one arm tied behind your back, and the roster's already not in a perfect spot. Like just
Yeah.
play your best guys more often. And they did that tonight and they won. And it was still not perfect, but like this is how they're going to have to win games. It's just how it's going to happen for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they're going to lose games.
Yeah, they might,
the same thing. And there's really,
because they might not hit 25. They might not hit 25 threes.
I mean, it can't be emphasized enough that they nearly blew this game. Like I don't know what we would have talked about had the Mavericks had 2 40-point scores for the first time in their history and they lost. Like,
thank God.
What a hilarious! Like, I'm just glad we don't. Like, I'm glad we don't have to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Kyrie Irving talked last game about how he needs to be more assertive earlier. He did that tonight. Mm-hmm. He was really effective in the first quarter, and it did not take away at all from what Luka tends to like to do in the first quarter. And again, like the not to refer to the TNT stuff, but I think it matters. There's so much discussion about whether these two can fit. And honestly, it doesn't matter. The answer is yes. It's a matter of, are you performing at 170% efficiency or not? Like, that's the difference. Like, they're going to cook if these two are on the floor. The defense is what matters. I mean, Kyrie was 25 or 15 of 22. Good gravy.
Yeah, and he had two rough games. Like, we knew this was coming. Like, he's too good a shooter. Like, I think I think you said this in our last podcast. You were like, the funny thing about this is if Kyrie plays like Kyrie, they probably win the last 2 games. Like,
I mean, if he hits one more 3 in both of those games, they win. Like, that really is the simple part about this.
Yeah. So, and I think what I really liked, I mean, Luka was still, he was still complaining, but there was definitely a more give a shitness level
on the defense. I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, this was a case of like the defense was bad this game, not necessarily because of lack of effort, but it was just outmatched. The roster is just outmatched. There wasn't as many like wide open backdoor cuts and stuff like wide open layups given up. It was more just like, hey, guys are just getting beat not because of effort, but because of the other team is really good and the Mavericks defense just doesn't have enough horses. And I know that's like splitting hairs. Like the Sixers still like dominated the game offensively for the most part, but in terms of what we've seen the last couple of games, like, I just didn't see as much like Luka standing and watching someone get an offensive rebound and dunk, or, someone getting a really easy layup because someone's standing around the rim, not paying attention and getting a layup off an inbounds play, like stuff like that. That didn't happen as much. Sixers still scored a lot because the Mavericks they basically have like 2 good defenders on the roster right now.
Yeah. I thought Embiid was too cute by half. Yep. It's like he expected to dominate, and I understand like his game. Like I tend to think of him as like a low post guy, but he really is like a mid post. He likes to feast a lot in the old Dirk Nowitzki area, and he's quite good. Mm-hmm. But I thought like some of the stuff he tried to do was odd. Like they just need to run Harden, Embiid pick and rolls over and over and over, and they will crush, and they just don't.
Yeah. Embiid at 35 and Harden at 27.
Right.
So they still, it's kind of what
35. Jesus.
Yeah. The Sixers didn't lose this game because of their offense. It was just, again, it was kind of like the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man meme this game. Like it was just, how many times has the Mavericks been on the other end where the Sixers were, where they just had this dynamite offensive game, but they literally just couldn't get any type of stops and they lose. So, again, It's not necessarily like, hey, things are fixed. They could give up 120. They play the Suns with Kevin Durant next. They could give up another 130, but this time only score 115. And we don't necessarily have any questions answered. The one thing I will say, for talking about maybe tactics or something different, I did think that Kyrie did some really good stuff off the ball in this game. I think he came off some down screens and some dribble handoffs. I think Luka kind of fed him in a way that they weren't really doing as much in the first couple of games. Again, their offense has been fine for the most part since they've been traded.
Right, but it's like visually, it's a lot more interesting.
Yeah,
some of the things they did. Like, our friend Iztok has been sort of scrounging at interesting stuff the Mavericks have done when he's been doing some of the things he does on Twitter. And he's got some fun looking at this game. You could if anybody from our staff decided to, like, there's some interesting things that they could do. And I was texting with another NBA guy, Dave DeFore, during the game, and I just can't help but wonder if they're looking ahead a little too much. Not like this game, but like overarchingly. It's like, okay, we get to the playoffs. The Mavericks have an inside track to not play in the play-in. Like they can be in the top 6, but they have to execute. So it's like, let's not hold stuff back. Let's go. It's one thing if you're playing the Spurs, but like a game like today's, they like, not to be too, they needed this in a big way.
Yeah.
And I was not looking forward to talking about them as a 500 basketball team, which they would have been had they lost.
Mm-hmm.
So
but you also said after the Pacers gave you wouldn't have been shocked if they won this game.
Oh, no. I mean, and this one honestly was, I guess, just due to matchups. This one concerned me a little more than the Suns, which I don't know, maybe is stupid. It's because I don't really appreciate DeAndre Ayton, but I think the Suns have a similar depth issue to the Mavericks, even though they have, Ayton and Booker and KD and Chris Paul. It's like if you go to the bench at any extended stretch with any of your stars, what do you have? And, maybe the Suns have only played, I think, one game to this point with KD. So it's a little bit of looking ahead. Maybe they come out and the Mavericks don't really have anybody that can bother KD, but to be fair, the Mavericks didn't really have anybody that could bother Joel Embiid, and they still won. I don't know.
Score them.
Yeah.
Sixers had 60 points in the paint. They made 30 of their made field goals. So 30 of their 45 made field goals were in the paint or at the rim.
That's wild.
So again, like, nothing was. The things that are ailing the Mavericks are still ailing the Mavericks. The difference is they have Kyrie and Luka, who can be the two best players on the floor. And like you look at this box score, and it's shockingly similar to just about every box score, except just instead of Kyrie, Dinwiddie with like 15, you have Kyrie with 40, and otherwise the box score looks shockingly similar to like just about every other Mavericks game. So that's the difference. That's why you make the trade, though, right? Like,
sure.
This team doesn't win this game, right, without this trade. Like, if this is the team pre-trade, they lose this game by 126 to, like, 100, right? Or something like that. Like, they lose this game pretty bad. So, as weird as it is, if you've got two of the top, whatever you want to call them, 15, 20, 10, I don't know where you want to rank them, but when you've got two of those guys, you can win any game. You're in every game. And, this was an instance. And it also helps that Reggie Bullock did that thing where he just makes every single three for like a 5-minute stretch. That was fun too. You want to know something fun? So Reggie Bullock entered this game. He shot 42.5% from three in February and 45% from three in January. So, not as much bickering about him lately.
If I feel like his contract next year is like unbelievably reasonable. I feel like it's a very good price.
Yeah, I think only like $5 million of it's guaranteed. Otherwise, it's $9 million.
Okay, it's $9 million. Like, send him on vacation. Let him go do something else through mid-December. Like, he doesn't need to be with the team. Go out into the community, do some charity work. Don't play basketball because all you do is piss us off in that month.
It's not a bad idea. Keep those legs fresh.
Right, because he also, that's the other thing. The thing about Reggie this year that's been his defense, he doesn't have any tread on his tires. He can't play defense. He's exhausted. I wonder if he might be cooked on that end. So it's like
he can't stay in front of anyone right now.
Yeah.
So, but hey, he's making threes. I mean, so.
Well, did you see the bench plus minus is killing me? Have you looked at this yet?
Yeah, everyone. The starters are all plus 15 or better, and the bench is like minus 20, minus 16.
Christian Wood is a negative 21 in 14 minutes.
Oh yeah, he was terrible. The bench was pretty bad. Maxey was okay, but he kind of got saddled with some bad bench units. But again, Maxey. Maxey. It's the thing. Like, you can't ask him to do everything. Like, he can only do so much.
For the second game back, he doesn't look like he was gone. And
and he made his threes, which is a
I
big
can
deal.
say. Yeah.
There was that stretch in the first half where they had Maxey at the 5, and I think it was it was him with mostly like starters. Like, it was like Kyrie, Luka, Maxey, Bullock, and like maybe Green, or it was Hardaway. It was, it was basically like 4 of the starters and Maxey. And man, they just, and most of the Philly starters were in, and man, they cooked. Like, Embiid was like a liability for a lot of this game because he can't move defensively, which is like kind of like a dirty secret with him. Like, he's still pretty good when people try to challenge him at the rim because he's a monster, and he's still smart around the rim. Like, he's still, he is a really smart player. It's just he can't, like, he's had a lot of foot injuries and stuff like that. Like, he just doesn't guard the perimeter. And man, the Mavericks were playing that 5 out, and it looked like what they did to the Jazz and looked like what they did to the Suns, where they just played against a big that didn't want to step out to the perimeter, and they just cooked them. And that's like, you just squint and you look and you're like, oh, there's the formula. Like, that's how they can win in the playoffs. Not a lot of teams can match them in terms of the 5 out potential that they have. And if teams are matching them 5 out, it's like, because they're going small. Like, Maxey is just kind of so unique in that regard. That's why he's so important. So you can kind of squint and see, and like, maybe if you tighten up the minutes even more, you don't rely on the bench as much, and they go on a run in the playoffs maybe, but the defense is just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm not. The last couple of days been really thinking, because I went on the show I did with you the other night. Thought I was pretty poor. My thoughts were not collected. I was really off kilter because losing to the Pacers was just not what I expected. I don't know why I expected them to win. They never win when I expect them to, and they always lose when I expect them to win. It's a confusing time. And then I went on the live show, and I talked about this with a couple of people, and it's just, I think where I get really hung up in the conversation is when we try collectively, those of us who talk about the Mavs, to brush aside the very obvious weaknesses. Now, what I've seen the last 3 days since that loss was a lot of conversation about, it's focusing on the things that are working, which is fine, but some more open kind of addressing the fact that this team is really not built to play, I think, the way Kid would like them to. Like, they can't play defense. They just can't.
They're one more move away, and I don't think that's like.
I mean, they're multiple moves away.
I know what you mean, but they need one more defensive wing. Like, they need to recoup the fact that they lost Dorian.
When you trade 2 starters for 1, it's just going to cause some downhill effects, and there's no problem like saying that.
No.
And for Ismet, like, I'm still very bothered by Kid. I'm going to continue to be bothered by Kid. I've been sent so much stuff about the Bucks over the last 3 days, like reading back through the history. That stuff's not going to go away for me. Just isn't. But what I will say, and I don't think we focused enough on this at the time because I was just really mad at Kid, is that what Kid had to say was true. He didn't address Luka directly. That pissed me off, though he had since kind of came back around and was like, yeah, I was talking about Luka. Duh.
And the spectator comment was just, it just overshadowed everything else.
Yeah, that overshadowed everything else. And so it's like, Followell and Brian Damaris really tried to focus on the first half of what he was saying about Luka, and I understand why. But the second half is the part that really grinds my gears. However, I do think we have to, like, it's just what they had to say about Luka needing to focus and not be a baby is true. I hear it from non-Mavs fans. I hear it from casual Mavs fans. It is now who he is regarded as, and that sucks.
Yeah,
I don't like. Yeah, and like that's the part where it's like, okay, you just got to clean this up. And you know what? The thing about a reputation, and I've learned this the hard way. The thing about a reputation is you do not shake that in a game, in a week, in a season. Took Dirk Nowitzki winning the damn championship to become anything other than soft.
Right.
So Luka has this rep, and he has to figure out how to get past it. And I still didn't see some stuff tonight. It's like he got fouled on a make and complained about it the whole way down the floor. It's like, you made the shot. They didn't call the foul. What good is the complaining doing? Stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to kind of broach that up because like I went so hard at Kid because I didn't like Kid as a signing. I still stick to my guns on this. It's okay. My opinion ultimately doesn't matter because I don't affect what the team does. Lord knows that. But it's just I think that what he had to say was accurate. It just it's like, why did it take until game 60 of season 2? You're roughly 160 games into your career together with Kid and Luka. Why did it take that many games for it to happen like this? Because it's been this way the whole time.
Yeah, it's been the way before he
Yeah,
even got
before.
here. So,
That's so true.
yeah, so yeah,
Well,
I understand.
I'm gonna have a great time kind of thinking about this game. I think that hopefully we see some like real deep dives into what, you know, the Luka stuff we kind of know, we've seen it, but what were the things that we're doing? What worked for Kyrie? I'm interested in that. I really am interested in that. And then, you know, just I'm looking forward to the next game. Like well, I can't watch the next game. Crap. That Sunday at noon game it might be one of the first games I miss all season. I'm very annoyed at that. Okay, well,
We'll hold down the fort for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Maybe-
hopefully I'll be back. Like, I think I might be able to watch, but I won't be able to watch the way the way I usually do. So if I get back in time, maybe we'll record and you can tell me what I missed.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing we got to mention before we leave is Hardaway left in the second half with an injury.
Did he really? Shit.
Yeah. It was very like he subbed out in the fourth quarter, untucked his jersey, walked straight to the locker room. No one followed up on what it was, and I haven't seen anything post game just yet. I'm sure maybe someone said it, so maybe it wasn't serious, but he did leave the game and go to the locker room. Hopefully, you know, he tweaked his hamstring, I think a couple weeks ago. I hope he didn't re-aggravate anything there.
Oh, yeah, and then he did something to his ankle and his foot last game, didn't he?
I think so.
That right?
I'm not seeing any reports.
Well, that would be.
He's quietly been pretty.
Well, so let me. We need to offer this correction. We were wrong about Christian Wood. He actually came back, but we noted that in our previous podcast. And I saw somebody in the chat wonder if Tim Hardaway pulled a Christian Wood and just went back to the locker room because I mean Tim was that doesn't sound like
he was having a good game too. Like I mean, well, not defensively, he was making his shots at least. So.
Yeah. All right, my guy. We'll be back. Thanks for hanging out with us. Look for stuff up on Mavs Moneyball, and we will talk with you when we talk to you. Go Mavs.